of all of our podcast episodes, we have started a new segment called Ask the Moms, where we answer a question from our Mom Street community. It can be related to the topic, unrelated to the topic, about any of the Disney parks, Disneyland Paris also, now that we've got some experience there. But our question tonight comes from our wonderful friend, Allie Beth. She asked this on our Discord. And her question was, any advice on hotels and children who struggle sleeping in new places? Solutions or tips and tricks for that?
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I have actually experienced this firsthand on my son's first trip. Getting him to sleep was a struggle. So something that I suggest is thinking about kind of what it's going to look like ahead of time and trying to maybe simulate that at home if you're able to. So like my son was 22 months and had never slept since he was old enough to remember, had never slept in the same room as me before. And that was very distracting to him because he could see me from his pack and
Mom?
play. He would stand at the end, Mama, Mama,
Mom?
Mama.
Mom?
Yeah,
Mom?
literally. So I wish that thinking back, I would have done some prep maybe for that to help him adjust, because that was the biggest issue that he had. We also did our best to simulate like the amount of light and things like that, and stick to his schedule the best that we could. Try not to put him to bed too late. I mean, they're going to go to bed a little bit later because you're at the Disney parks if you want them to be able to experience fireworks and Fantasmic and things like that. But trying to keep them on their schedule as much as we could was helpful. That way he was napping at the right time, and that way bedtime was close to the right time. So that way he was getting enough sleep, because it was a longer process to get him to sleep.
Yeah, I had my first child didn't sleep for so long. It's just like I'm remembering it. I'm like, it was awful. And it is tough. It's travel. It always takes 3 days for kids to adjust to a new sleeping environment. So keep that in mind if you are losing your mind, that it takes 3 days. And that might help you to make it through the first couple days.
Yep.
I also, things we used to do, we always travel with white noise, always. And you can get it on an app on your phone, even if you don't want to bring like a small white noise machine. There's lots of apps for white noise. And now my kids constantly sleep with that. That like helped us when we traveled in Europe. They had white noise on, and it drowned out the very loud sounds of Paris outside our window. Because that was we slept over a cafe, and there was like, this is like alarms, and oh gosh, it was so much. So white noise is your best friend if your kid is used to that. But yes, simulating their regular environment. And we used to do something, we would analyze kind of our space in our room and try to figure out if there was a place to put like the pack and play where they couldn't see us, even if it was like in the front hallway, just making sure we had enough room to get out if there was an emergency. But like placing it in a place where they couldn't quite see us really made a difference for that. My kids also my older kids like to bring, blankets and stuffies that are like their comfort ones from home. So that really helps a lot. So things that smell familiar and feel familiar to their skin, that helps a lot. And then, keeping to your bedtime routine. If you have one at home, we used to do, like it's been so long. We used to do, baths and book and then bedtime, like it kind of following the same routine that you always do, so that they're familiar with that, really helps a lot to get them settled. But just recognize it probably will take a couple days for them to adjust, and that's okay. And that's normal.
Yes. And take a breath and try to be patient, because it's hard, because you're exhausted, they're exhausted. But I always will say also, just in general, my mom advice in any aspect of sleep training, sleeping in a new place, whatever it may be, is just consistency, trying to be as consistent as possible. And again, that ties into those routines, doing those routines exactly like you do at home, and reacting to them in the same way that you do if they were to be in their crib at home. So for example, if at home, if you do more of a cry it out method, do that at the hotel. To an extent, you also have to remember you have people sleeping around you. But you know, those types of things, try to keep it consistent, try to be calm, try to breathe. And if you need to step out, my husband and I, when it got to the point where we were like, we can't, like, we need to step away, we literally would step into the bathroom
The
area
bathroom. I was going to say the bathroom. Just
and
leave until they fall
close the
asleep.
doors. Yeah. And we sat in there on our phones for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending. And usually we would be able to peek out and he would crash. And that
Gosh,
was
I
what
remember that.
ended up helping. And then it took about 2 nights, and then like the second morning he woke up and was like, all right, mom and dad are still here, okay, we're good. And then like after that it was much easier, and then we all got sick, and then it was a whole different story, and then that was just bad news bears.
Oh no.
But yeah, but like giving yourself that moment to step out, because like typically if your kids have been in the same room with you, a lot of the times if you're at like a family's house or something like that, you can lay them down and leave the room so they're not
Yeah.
staring at you while
Right.
they're trying to sleep. It's hard to do that in a hotel room.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, it's tough. And anytime you walk around, I remember so much of us like creeping around our hotel room and like
yes,
barely breathing, making sure they couldn't
yes,
see us.
yep. Yep. And you have to
This
be
is
really
parenthood.
smart about, the other thing I will mention is being really smart about dividing and conquering the like just family things that need done that night, whether it's unpacking your bag, repacking for tomorrow. We would do a lot of dividing and conquering. One of us would be with my kiddo when we only had one. One of us would be with him and getting him ready for bed, while the other one was like very speedily getting the stuff unpacked and repacked as much as we could the night before. And some of that may just have to wait for the morning, depending on your situation and what needs done. But thinking about those things, because you're not going to be able to do them after they're asleep most of the time, unless you have a really
Yeah.
heavy sleeper that once they're asleep, they're out. Good for
I don't
you.
risk it.
I'm
No.
right. So
I have
just planning
a couple
that ahead of time.
I have a couple of comments here, some advice.
Yes.
Star Sprite says, I put washcloths over the little random lights in the room and a clip for the curtains for cracks, which you can use a clip. Sometimes I use I do this even when I travel by myself. I use the curtains, or not the curtains, the hangers that have the clips on them. If you turn
Yeah.
them sideways, you can use those to clip the curtain
Oh,
shut.
yeah.
So then you don't have to bring one from home. And Nikki says sometimes there's an actual cribs available if you don't want to pack and play, but you need to call ahead. And my experience is sometimes those aren't always like the cleanest, depending on where you stay. So bring some extra like sanitizing wipes just in case if you're
Mhm.
using one of those, just for your own peace of mind. Maybe that's
Yeah.
just
And
me, but
I will, yeah, you're not wrong. And I will say, especially because a lot of kids tend to like on their cribs. So like, you
yeah,
know, that's a normal thing.
yeah,
But I will say if you're looking at pack and plays versus cribs, keep in mind that different hotels at on Disney World property offer different things. Like all the value resorts only have pack and plays. They do
hmm,
not have any of the true cribs.
yeah,
Most of the cribs you're going to find at the deluxe level, and moderate is going to be a hodgepodge mix of what they have. So
exactly.
keep that in mind. There are off property places you can rent from. We talked about that, oh gosh, in episode 2 maybe of
A
Mom
long time
Street,
ago, yeah.
way back when we were talking about kind of prepping for your trip and what to do ahead of time. We mentioned some different options there. So if that's something you need to look into, refer back to that. But there are places that you can rent them from. I don't know sanitary wise if those are cleaner or not than the Disney World ones. It's
I
so
don't
hard
know.
to tell with littles, especially. So yeah, just plan on wiping some stuff down. And also, I would plan on bringing your own sheets for those as well,
Yes, we did
to
that.
make
Hmm,
sure that you have one that's familiar to them, one
hmm.
that fits the, you know, I'm a big advocate of safe sleep, so you want to make sure you
Yes.
have one that fits snugly on whatever surface you're using. If it's a pack and play specific sheet or a crib sheet, just making sure you throw those in your bag so that way your kiddo is safe. Sleep sacks, all of those
Yeah.
types of things.
Because sometimes in those hotels, they'll, like, if they have a crib, they'll just tuck a flat sheet around it
Hmm.
rather than having an actual fitted sheet on it. And I'm just
Yes.
like, that's a
Nope.
no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bring your own sheets from home, especially because they also smell like home, which helps a lot too. So, Yeah,
Yes.
lots and lots of tips for, can you tell we both had tough sleepers?
And the thing that got me was
Oh,
my kiddo was a really good sleeper at home. So we got there and I was just like, oh, I did not prepare for this. It didn't even cross my mind. I was worried about these 100 other things for his first trip and getting there and all of that. But it was just like, oh, because we were fortunate enough because we drove, we actually brought our own pack and play.
hmm.
Because we drove, we were able to do that. So I had done that much and thought about the sheet and the pack and play and like, okay, this will be familiar, that'll be good. But I hadn't even thought about the fact that like we'd all be going to bed at the same time and he'd be able to see me as he was trying to sleep. So luckily, my daughter's first trip, she was much older, not much older, an older enough that she was sleeping in the bed and it was much easier with her.
I think one trip we got so desperate that we like took all of the extra pillows in the room and stacked them at the end of our bed and made like a wall
Oh
so they
my
couldn't see us. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near their crib, so they couldn't pull the
God. Right,
pillows in or
right,
anything, but it
right.
was like, it just was enough that, sorry, it was just like
Mm-hmm.
enough that they could not see
Yeah,
us at all. And we just had to be careful not to kick the pillows off. It was like, it was a last ditch. We are exhausted and we need to sleep now
yeah,
measure.
yeah.
You do what you got to do. It's,
Yep.
you
And
know,
maybe that's one of those things that if you've got both parents with you on that trip, you need to rotate out so you both get enough sleep that the next day can still be a successful day.
yes. Whew. And if you are in that season and it feels like it's forever and it's never going to be over, just know that it's not going to be forever. Your kids will outgrow that. Eventually, they will sleep. I promise you, they will sleep.
Yes,
And
they
it will
will.
get easier. It will get harder in other ways, but it'll get
Yes.
easier physically
Yes.
over the years. So just hang in there and know that, take a deep breath and know that you're not alone, that a lot of other moms are going through this right now, and that
Mhm.
it's normal to need a break sometimes, and it's okay to advocate for yourself and say, I need to step away from this right now because I'm frustrated. So
Yeah,
just saying.
absolutely. Kathy B asked a really good question. Can you ship a pack and play to your resort? I suppose you could. I
I
don't
probably
know that it
wouldn't.
would be worth it because of the extra fees and
Yeah.
paying to ship it there, and all that type of thing. Because then you'd also have to pay to possibly ship it back, and
You'd have
that
to
that
pay
seems
extra package fees to receive it too,
yes,
and you would have to go
yes,
retrieve it from Bell Services. They wouldn't deliver that to your room because it's a package.
right.
So if anything, I would use a rental company maybe from a local
Hmm.
rental place. That would probably be the
Yeah.
way I would go with that if you needed to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really are super worried about the hygiene and how clean those are, then maybe that's worth the extra hassle and cost to you. But so I would think you would be able to because you can ship packages to your resort. But like Kate said,
Yeah.
you'd have to go down and pick that up and haul it up to your haul
So
it
it
up
depends.
there.
It depends on how
Yeah,
much it's, if you have the budget for it and you think your
right.
kid would sleep better, then go for it. But I
Yeah.
probably, that wouldn't be my advice to do that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And
Yeah.
Kathy said you could buy one there and then donate it when you're done. And I have seen people do that with like umbrella strollers and things like
Yeah.
that. Or they'll leave it like there's lots of Facebook groups for the resorts where people will leave stuff behind in like laundry spaces or right outside their rooms or that type of thing. I don't know that I necessarily advocate for that because I feel like sometimes it makes more work for mousekeeping if they're having to clean up all these extras. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you could possibly look into something with a donation if it works with your time frame to be able to do that on your way out. Absolutely. Shout out, thank you to Allie Beth for your question for our Ask the Moms segment.
Yes.
If you have questions that you'd like us to feature on Ask the Moms, please send them our way. You can reach us on Discord. If you are not familiar with our Discord, it is the Pocket Fam Walrus Carp Discord that our friend Kirk runs. The link for that is in both of our bios that you can find. We have a whole Mom Street channel on there that you can post on there. You can find us on all of the social medias and all the places. If you prefer to send an email, we are momstreetusa@gmail.com, but we would love to have your questions for our Ask the Mom segment.
Yeah, absolutely. These are so fun to answer. It really gets us thinking outside the box. You're like, what did we do? How
Yeah.
have we done this? That's so fun.
And we get to get input from you. I mean, you guys had tons of really great ideas for that. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
super helpful.